This could be one of the more interesting releases here in 2024. Just saying. Bardstown Bourbon Company's collaborative series has partnered with innovators in whiskey, innovators in wine, and even in beer. Now, the first of 3 collaborations that will be released here in 2024 begins with the union of Amrut Distillery and Bardstown Bourbon Company. Amrut is a powerhouse name in the realm of Indian single malts, making a first-of-its-kind finish for American whiskey. The Amrut Collaborative Series brings together the tradition of single malt, Indiana rye, and Kentucky bourbon whiskeys. Sounds a little crazy, I know, but you're gonna wanna hear about this. Let's try it. It's the Mash and Drum. What's up, folks? I'm Jason C. from the Mash and Drum, and welcome back to the show. Like, subscribe, and help me get to 100,000 subscribers and hit that milestone before the 2024 year is over. So thanks for the support. Now, for those of you that haven't heard of Amrut, this partnership is kind of a big deal. When it comes to the largest and most well-known brand, no Indian single malt has been more influential than Amrut, which launched an entire category that today represents more than half of the top 10 brands globally. Now, even though it's an Indian single malt, Amrut is a classically created single malt made and aged in India's warm climate, and it follows the same strict Scotch regulations that we get in Scotland, which are pretty strict. As I mentioned, the Amrut Collaborative Series brings together some interesting whiskeys. You have 2 straight rye whiskeys aged in Amrut Indian single malt barrels for 18 months. Now, the resulting liquid was then carefully blended with well-aged Kentucky straight bourbons. So collectively, you have a 9-year 51% rye and an 8-year 95.5 rye, both from Indiana. Then you have 14, 10, and 11-year Kentucky straight bourbons in the blend for a crazy-looking burrai when you look at it on the label. So all in all, you have whiskeys that range from 8 to 14 years using 5 different mash bills. It's bottled at 110 proof with a suggested retail price of $159.99. All right, so I'm gonna try the Amrut first, the Amrut Indian single malt, because I wanna see if there's anything that carries over to the Bardstown collaboration. My gosh, this is all like honeysuckle, pear, apple, lemon. I mean, that malty quality is there too, but man, it smells very, very sweet. Let's give it a try. On the palate, you get a little bit more of the same. I think on the front of the palate, you definitely get the honey. The apple is there, kind of that apple-pear combination. And then once it hits the back of the palate, it kind of gives you this really nice, this very light spice that it has. This nice little spice-driven type of component. So let's see if any of these flavors from the Amrut kind of carried over to the Bardstown collaboration. The Amrut, this collab is already, I think, hitting stores. I got a media sample, and I was lucky enough to get one of this from Bardstown Bourbon Company to kind of check it out. So we'll see what we get here. Immediate honey and cherry on the nose. Immediate. Get a lot of honey, actually. That's something that we found in the Amrut single malt, which is interesting. But a lot of cherry, which we didn't get in the Amrut single malt. I'm guessing that's from the bourbon influence here, that high-aged bourbon that's in the blend. So you do get some of the malt. I think the maltiness is going to be one of those components that people might shy away from, but it's not overly malty. I don't think there's a ton of the malt here. I've tasted some other bourbons and whiskeys that have been finished in a Scotch cask with way more malt influence. This doesn't really have too much of that, so if that's what's scaring you, I could see that, but there's not a lot of that here. But man, cherry, honey, and there is some really heavy spice here. I would say like cinnamon allspice characteristic. Man, it smells fantastic. That cherry note is so vibrant with that honey. So let's give it a try. That is, that thing takes you for a ride. It's still kind of evolving on the palate a bit. I'm like having to like kind of swirl around, chew on a little bit. Get one more sip of that before I kind of give you my notes here. So again, on the, oh man, the finish on that. The front of the palate, again, a lot of cherry, There's some maltiness there too. Again, I'm not gonna lie, like there's no maltiness. There is some maltiness here, but I do think it's a lighter maltiness. There's not a lot of it. So if you guys like to keep, so if any of you out there like to keep single malt scotch or single malt whiskeys at arm's length, because it's just not your thing, this doesn't have a lot of that malty characteristic. However, what I think you do get from the Amrut is you get the spice and you get a lot of that honey characteristic. I think the cherry together with that honey characteristic that you're getting in the Amrut is a beautiful combination. That high age rye that's in the mash bill as well, I feel like it just kind of attacks the finish of the palate, and you get a lot of spice, a lot of like black pepper, kind of like a spicy tea type of note to it, where it's got like this cherry infused like herbal tea quality to it. Really spicy, really rich, little minty too on the back end as well. This thing is, this thing hits different. The best part of this whiskey is the finish, and it's not even close. The finish is incredible on this whiskey. Honestly, the finish for me is worth the price of admission. I mean, just the amount of flavors. You get the cherry, you get the, you get a little bit of the honey, you get all that rye spice, but then you also get this little hint of like a smokiness to it on the very, very back end. It's not peat smoke. I think people are gonna immediately think, oh no, there's like a peat smoke in it. It's not peat smoke. It's more of like a barrel char, like campfirey smoke that's on the very, very end of it. But I would say that between the honey, the cherry, the mint, the black pepper spice, I gotta tell you, that's one of the most interesting blends and the most interesting whiskeys I've had in 2024. I'm loving this thing. And I think just because it's different. We'll get to the final breakdown because I have my thoughts on this bottle, but we'll get there. Let me give you one more sip here. Even at 110 proof, this thing carries a lot of spice. I think it leans more Borai than it does the Amrut finish. I think what you get from the Amrut is the finish on it with that spice and also some of the, a lot of that honey characteristic that comes through. Maybe a little bit of like that lemony, citrusy zest. I think that could be catching a little bit mid-palate here. But once it gets to the back palate, that's where the magic begins. You get all that rye spice that's in the blend. I think the cherry is just coming from all those ultra-aged bourbons that's in there. And then as it finishes, the finish just lingers and lingers and lingers. Like it's still going. It's just kind of sitting on the back of the palate. Again, like that black tea note, the spice, the allspice, the cinnamon, all of it kind of just culminating at the very end of it. This is fantastic. The sad thing is, I think this is gonna sit on shelves. All right, final breakdown, here we go. All right, guys, final breakdown on the Bardstown Bourbon Company Amrut collaboration. Price for this one is $159.99, so call it 160 bucks. Resale market value, I have seen these for a little over $200 already on resale. I'm not really sure if it's gonna go above that. As far as availability goes, here's the interesting thing. Just as I said earlier, I think this bottle is gonna sit because not many people know what Amrut is. They're gonna hear Indian single malt, and it's probably gonna scare some people off. So I think this bottle is gonna be sitting for a little bit. So I think availability on this, even over a little bit of time, is gonna be good. Value for this one, you have a 9 and 8 year rye, you have 14, 10, and 11 year bourbons for less than 200 bucks. A lot of people are gonna say it's too much money, but look at the mash bills that are on the side of that label, where they're coming from, and look at the ages. I think this is an even, value at $159.99 for what you're getting, plus the finish and the Amrut. I think it's, I actually think it's right where it should be. Most I paid for this one, like I said, I think it's right where it should be. I'm gonna say 160 bucks. If I could grab this at retail, I would grab it at retail. Alternatives. I think that's kind of the beauty of this whiskey. I don't think there is an alternative for this one. If you could give me a Borai blend that's been finished in, now I've had a Borai's finished in rum. I've had Borai's finished in sherry. Can't say I've ever had a Borai like this with this high-aged whiskey finished in an Indian single malt cask. I don't think there's an alternative to this one. It is what it is. And finally, is this a skip? Is it a try before you buy? Or is it a buy and back it up? For me, this is a buy. It's an immediate buy. I love this collaboration. I think it's probably one of the best collaborations they've done in a long time. Bardstown Bourbon Company has done a lot of collabs in the past. I'm not always a big fan of them. I know some people really like the Foursquare one. I was not a big fan of it. I actually wanted more of the rum characteristic in it. And there's been a few others I just haven't been a fan of. However, this one in particular, I think is so good and just so unique and so different in the best way possible. People hear unique and different and they think, oh, that's a nice way of saying it's bad. This is not in any way, shape, or form like that. I think the flavors that you get in here are so different, so unique in the best way possible. Danny and the crew over there at Bardstown Bourbon Company, I think actually killed this release. So I am going to get a bottle of this. I actually watch a sneaker channel. I think his name is Seth Fowler, and he does this series called Sit or Sell, whether sneakers are gonna sit on the shelf or they're gonna sell out. I think I'm gonna start doing that with every release. I think this one's gonna sit because I think people are gonna either shy away from the price, it's not gonna be worth it to them, or because that Amrut and an Indian single malt is gonna be too scary for them. So that's fine. If you guys wanna skip it, leave it on the shelf. I will thoroughly enjoy buying this, possibly a backup of it, but for me, this is an absolute buy, hands down. Great job. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review for the new Bardstown Bourbon Company Amrut collaboration. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit the subscribe button below. Please hit the like button, and if you haven't yet, follow me on Instagram. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this one. Is the price scaring you off? Is the whole Indian single malt finish scaring you off? I'm telling you guys, it is a fantastic whiskey. With that said, like I always say, it's not about the whiskey, it's the people you share it with. Cheers, and I'll see you next time right here on The Master and Drum. So good. That cherry, man. It's all about the cherry.